Shalom to the elect. All praises and glory goes to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations to the elect men feeding the sheep of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, in sincerity and truth with this great gospel that is coming out of our Bible, strictly for the children of Israel, the elect of the children of Israel, because the rest were blinded. The rest were blinded. The rest were in what? Denial. Right, they blind to the fact that they're living in the latter times, the latter times of what Esau Edom's society, right? And you could see that conflict, that World War III, right? That World War III, the scriptures say what? This is the book of Joel 3 and 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Right? Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Right? Fighting weapons. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. Right? The Lord is stirring up the minds of these heathens, man, preparing for what? That World War III, right? It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war.
So we have some more details of that insane and crazy meeting that Pete Hegseth called, where it's basically having all the top generals and admirals all meet in one place. This is hundreds of people. This is what it says. It says, Trump to attend gathering of top generals, upending last-minute plans. And this is an update on this thing. I personally think they're probably going to do some sort of loyalty pledges or something, or maybe this is where Trump's like preparing people for martial law. I don't know, but I want to read through the details of this stuff with you guys. We'll see exactly what it says. It says, hundreds of top military officers and staff have been summoned to Virginia on short notice for a speech by Pete Hegseth. And I know before you were hearing like, this is like literally just out of the blue. Now people have to make travel plans to go to this thing. Trump decided this weekend to attend the meeting, adding new security concerns. And many of you noticed also, as well, as like it's just a major security risk to have all your top military leadership all in one place and then announce it ahead of time that you're doing it. It's crazy, right? President Donald Trump has, and now Trump's going, I guess. President Donald Trump noticed also, as well, as like it's just a major security risk to have all your top military leadership all in one place and then announce it ahead of time that you're doing it. It's crazy, right?
This is the book of Revelation 11 and 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, right? These devils, they thinking they're controlling the situations around earth. They're controlling the conflicts. They're controlling the concurrency, right? They got to realize it's the Lord who sets up systems and collapse systems, right? Who sets up governments and collapse governments. And he do it when he wants to, right? When he wants to, right? That's right now he's just stirring up the minds of these kings and these rulers to prepare for this, what, last conflict. That the second woe is past. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That's why they're holding these meetings. Unexpectedly. Unexpectedly. Even the scripture says, suddenly shall what? These troubles come. Paraphrasing, right? When people are in their comfort, and suddenly shall destruction come upon them, man. That's what's about to happen when these people are so comfortable in Babylon the Great, find themselves surrounded by Russian troops, Chinese troops, North Korean troops, right? Canadian troops, Mexican troops, Venezuelan troops, because Esau, DJT making enemies with everybody, right? North Korean troops, even South Korean troops going to turn on Babylon. Everybody going to turn on America. The British, right? They said they're going to burn her with fire, right? The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly.
President Donald Trump has, and now Trump's going, I guess. President Donald Trump has decided he's going to the last-minute global gathering of the nation's top generals in Quantico, Virginia. I mean, how do we even talk about this last-minute global gathering of the nation's top generals? Like, what are we doing? The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered last week, okay? Trump's appearance not only upstages Hegseth's plans, but adds new security concerns to the massive and nearly unprecedented military event. And just on the surface, I'll just say this. This sounds something like the Mustache Party would do. I'll just be frank. Like why are we suddenly having this, emergency meeting of all the top generals and admirals and such? Here's a quote here. We have confirmation from the White House that POTUS is now attending the speech on Tuesday. Okay, so that's a planning document sent Saturday and viewed by the Washington Post, so they're already making plans for said thing. Notice went out to offices around the Pentagon that the decision will, quote, significantly change the security posture of the speech. That's the quote. Significantly change the security posture of the speech.
You got a lot of people in Babylon and around the world playing dumb, like they don't see what the fuck is going on. Like they don't see what everything is pointing to, man. You see what's going on in these other countries, right? You see what's happening in these other nations. You see the collapse of currencies in different countries and different nations. You see the collapse of the governments in different countries and different nations, right? The uproars of the people, the violence, right? Everybody's grabbing arms to fight against who that power that's over them, because they're being oppressed. They're being shut out of the financial system. That's the other thing too, man. These devils, they robbing everybody. They robbing everybody. That's why they go into war. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. This back in Joel 3:9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. That's why they don't give a damn about the homeless. They don't give a damn about feeding the people. They don't give a damn about fixing the roads. Right? Everything is being put into they call it that big bill, which was all about setting up that military in Babylon. You see why you think DJT sending military to these different cities and these different states, right? Because he's preparing for a civil war, right? He's preparing for a war from within and without, coming from the other nations and you people trying to fight because the system is collapsing. That's another thing. A lot of people can't take the fact that their system is collapsing, right? It says, beat your plowshares into swords and the pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, right? You got these smaller nations telling America, man, we don't need you, right? You got them African nations. They cut off France. France is collapsing as we speak, right? Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, right? Let the heathen be weakened and come up unto the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge the heathen round about, right? Because that's what's about to happen. These heathens about to be judged, man. The Lord's about to stir up their minds and lead them where to the Middle East. This is the book of Revelation 6, verse 4. It reads, and there went out another horse that was red, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword, right? A great sword. 7, it says, and when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Right? That's when the earth was given into the hands of the wicked. Right? When he came back, the rebirth of the so-called white man. Right? Setting up himself as the so-called Caucasians on earth, the British. Right? He took over the dark nations, places where the dark nations were ruling. Right? Europe. Spain. Right? Ireland, all these different places where Jake was ruling. That's where Esau came in. That's why you got these images of Jake still up in these different places. Right? And also he went through the four corners of the earth spoiling, man. The spirit of Alexander the Great came back. It says when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and he shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. The number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Right? The chief nation that they're beefing with right now is who? Russia, right? It says, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about in beloved city. And fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophets are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Right? That's the future of America. Right? Who's that false prophet over there in Rome? They gonna eat a missile. Right? There's a lot of different places around the world that's gonna eat missiles. But that main lake of fire, you're gonna be seeing judges here in Babylon the Great. Here in Babylon the Great. That's why everything points to what? Nuclear war. This is the book of Proverbs 21:9. It says 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Right? Which way is the Lord turning their hearts right now? To conflict. That's why as we beat your plowshares into pruning hooks and your spears into swords. Let the weak say I'm strong. Right? The angels are stirring up these motherfuckers' minds to fight each other. And that is a good thing, because all this is going to lead to the coming of our Lord and lead to our deliverance and our salvation. Right? It says every way of man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. Right? That's why DJT, Lord told DJT, you go to that meeting too. Right? So he could stir it up even more and more. Because there's nothing they could do to stop this.
It is also about their own economic outlook.
Us is over. This be like us, become like us is over. And that's what the Americans cannot understand. They still believe that they have to lead, that the world must be led by the Americans. And the reason they can't see it and they are in denial is that it's going down. Not the US as a state or a society, but as an empire. And all empires go down. There's no empire that has existed forever. That it's going down. Not the US as a state or a society, but as an empire. And all empires go down. There's no empire that has existed forever. So you may say the United States today is Titanic. The West is sitting as restaurants in Titanic, and the water is coming up around the windows. Now, instead of them reaching out and say, okay, our time is over, we will be one among many, and we will cooperate with you, what they do is they insist on one thing: the water is coming up around the windows. Now, instead of them reaching out and say, okay, our time is over, we will be one among many, and we will cooperate with you, what they do is they insist on one thing, and that is to dominate by means of deception, untruths, narratives, and secondly, militarism. I would like to predict at this occasion, the United States will go is to dominate by means of deception, untruths, narratives, and secondly, militarism. I would like to predict that this
is the book of Ecclesiasticus 10 verse 8. It reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right? And that's what they specialize in, deception. Right? Tricking you, thinking all you gotta do is work hard. Right? And the harder you work, the more you get taxified. The more you gotta pay to their system. And then you got the 1% at the top, they ain't gotta do a damn thing. They not working hard, they not paying nothing. But here you at the bottom struggling. And what else? They put all these different stumbling blocks in your way. So you can fail, right? They cause the house to be divided. You send your child to their system, to school. Child come home with a fucked up attitude. They send your wife to work. She end up come home with another motherfucker's child in her stomach. Right? That's the system that you're living in. That's why this place got to go down, right? And they talk about that they left here because no taxation without proper representation. And here you are, they got their hands in your pocket, right? This whole system is set up for you to fail. First off, it's a corporation, an industry, right? So you're just an employee. That's why you got that ID number, right? Ecclesiasticus 10:8, it says, because of unrighteous dealings, right? Robbery, right? It says it is full of robbery. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, and that's what's happening.
It's going down. Not the US as a state or a society, but as an empire. And all empires go down. There's no empire that has existed forever. So you may say the United States today is Titanic. The West is sitting as restaurants in Titanic, and the water is coming up around the windows. Now, instead of them reaching out and say, okay, our time is over, we will be one among many, and we will cooperate with you, what they do is they insist on one thing, and that is to dominate by means of deception, untruths, narratives, and secondly, militarism. I would like to predict at this occasion, the United States will go the same way as the Soviet Union because it is militarizing itself to death. The Americans don't do diplomacy anymore, they say militarism. I would like to predict at this occasion, the United States will go the same way as the Soviet Union because it is militarizing itself to death.
Areas where they were on patrol Sunday. Some downtown residents believe the federal officers will eventually return.
I think they'll probably come back at other times, but they're going to pick and choose and pick a time that they think is going to be nice and visible and do a couple things that make it more visible. Again, they're trying to make people afraid.
Agents in military fatigues patrolled Michigan Avenue, the Riverwalk, and River North.
That was pretty alarming just to see a group of masked guys walking around with ARs, silenced ARs. It's pretty intimidating. It was pretty alarming just to see a group of masked guys walking around with ARs, silenced ARs. It's pretty intimidating.
As a woman of color, it makes me very nervous that one of these people can look at me sideways and then next thing you know, my whole life is now ruined.
Again, President Trump is once again using the military, this time aiming at Portland, Oregon. In a social media post yesterday, the president authorized what he described as a full force if necessary. Trump claims the city is war-ravaged and that ICE facilities there are under siege by Antifa and what he calls domestic terrorists. This is video from yesterday showing federal agents, they're already arriving in Portland. Homeland Security, they're backing Trump, pointing to what it calls weeks of violent riots, but state and local leaders in Oregon, they tell a very different story. They say Portland is not under threat, the city is calm, and that sending in troops will only stir up conflict. CNN military analyst.
This is the book of Revelation 12, 12 verse 12. It says, therefore rejoice. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows that he have but a short time, right? He's sending them troops to every state, because he's preparing for the civil unrest, right? The scriptures, you seen he's sworn in on the Apocrypha, right? He's sworn in on the Apocrypha, and what it says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Right, you see what's going on around the world. These people ain't afraid of no government officials. They're not afraid of no police officers. They're not afraid of no military. They ain't afraid of no ICE. They're not afraid of the president. Right? You got Edomites ready to go to war, goddamn it, because they done lost everything in this society. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time.
We go the same way as the Soviet Union because it is militarizing itself to death. The Americans don't do diplomacy anymore. They send weapons. They pour in weapons because that's what they are best at. But no country can survive with just being strong in one sense. For instance, militarily. If you become politically weak, you become economically weak. They are best at. But no country can survive with just being strong in one sense. For instance, militarily. If you become politically weak, you become economically weak. You become psychologically weak. You become weak in terms of international law and legitimacy. Then you are on your way down. A strong country is one which has high level on all power indicators and do not over-militarize and neglect the other power scales. The United States has, you can say, MIMAC, military, industrial, media, academic complex. These are elites who have common interests with each other, such as, you can say, MIMAC, military, industrial, media, academic complex. These are elites.
This is the book of Micah 2:1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand," right? Like the man said, it said the elites, right? The elites, the people are in charge, right? They're the ones setting these whole, what it says, all wars are bankers' wars, right? All these wars were set up for them to take over that country, take over the resources, still whatever is in that important to them in that land, right? That's what they do. They go in and use the land up, and then when they're done with it, they just get little. That's the same thing they did with Babylon the Great. They find that there's no more use for America. Babylon them reached its peak, bounds that it cannot pass, right? It says, "Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice because it's in the power of their hands, and the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. And what the wicked is losing his power, so he's coming down with great wrath." And this is the book of 2 Peter 3:7. It reads, "But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men." Right? Everything that they're doing is leading to what? Their own destruction. Their own destruction, because these missiles are going to be used against not just the regular people of the world. It's going to be used against them, man. They about to lose their kingdoms. Right, they about to lose their thrones, right? Even when Yahweh Shai returned, it says, let's get this verse. This is the book of Revelation 19, and let's start at 11. At 11, it says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True," Yahweh Shai, right? And it says, "In righteousness doth he judge and make war." Yes, the Lord is coming to add on to these wars. It's already going to be wars on earth. It says, so what if the fire is already kindled? Right? He's coming to help put more gas on that fire. He's coming to help and make the flames go up a little even higher. Right? That's the spirit of Yahweh Shai. It says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as flame of fire, and on his head were what? Many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but himself." Right? Them crowns is the crowns of these punk-ass rulers of the earth right now, man. He's coming to take them down. Take them down through the power and strength of Yahweh. Shalom.